Here's what not to do on a bandsaw. Don't try and hold something round. I was safe in where I was standing, but it caught and suddenly it's not there anymore. That piece went in the trash. Don't do it that way. Do it like this. This is much better. It's more annoying, but it's much better. I had to adjust the guides and everything. Luckily, it didn't break much or anything, but then I just go through and it was much better after using the proper holders for all the pieces of wood. And yeah, I managed to get everything pretty much cut up for theirs. So if I'm making coasters, and there I'm making a jewelry box, or I should say a spinning jewelry box, but I'm making coasters. So cut up Chinese elm, there's some juniper, and I'm not sure what that first round wood was, but yeah, cutting up a bunch. There I'm making pieces for juniper jewelry box as well. Then taking the bark off like before. It takes a while when you have this many pieces, but it works. Luckily I have the bench and the little draw knife, although I think I have to sharpen the draw knife because with all the work it's been getting over the years, it's starting to, you have to cut it a certain way versus any angle, which is usually a sign that it's getting a little bit dull. And Chinese elm and such is a harsh wood anyway for being hard. But yeah, there's a lot of bark. And then the sanding, and initially I tried with that belt sander, but the belt broke. And then so I said, all right, well, I have a rough grit on my other sander. That used a lot of pads. And then I went and bought a new drum sander pack of 3 grits and worked through the grits. That was much better and more efficient than the hand sander. And my fingers didn't tingle from using this, whereas it did for there. As you can see, I'm switching. I started off on the rough grit and then worked down through the 3 grits to be much finer, and that worked well. And then, come on, finish with the sanding. There we go. Now back to the more final sanding on there, and then the finish work. And as I found out, I really should have had sanding sealer to begin with, but I didn't. So initially I was just trying to use the triple thick polyurethane, and that did okay. With this many things, I was starting to run out of, or did run out of, the things to set stuff on. So I had enough for the big pieces, but for the little ones, I just had to do them in steps. And later, there's what it looks like when it's done. So that worked out good. So this is done. I have a bunch of wood cookies cut to become wooden coasters. And the hardest part with that was that some of the grain, especially on the Chinese elm, had large pores, and I kept getting a lot of bubbles. You don't want that on a coaster. You don't want holes down into the coaster where liquids and stuff can go down in, especially with wood. With sandstone, it's all right, but with wood, not so much. Because I was just using the normal thing I've been using for a lot of projects the past few years was the Varathane triple thick polyurethane. Well, that put a coat on, bubbles. Sand it off, but not too much. Another coat, bubbles. Sand it off, not too much, bubbles. And so I eventually got a Varathane sanding sealer, and that helped a lot. A couple coats of that, and now they do much better. So these are all the Chinese elm ones. And my neighbor's niece said she wanted some coasters of the Chinese elm. So she's going to get to pick some of these. And then while I was doing it, I figured, all right, well, I'll also do some other woods that I have on my rack. And I had some juniper branches. So those came out pretty cool. You can see all the different colors and lines. Because juniper is a kind of cedar. And cedar has the colors in the center, heartwood. So those end up being cool. This one's one of the coolest ones. Come on, focus, don't screw up. Yeah, this phone. And I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is... This was a piece of firewood. And putting the initial coat on, it initially looked purplish for the center. They're cool, whatever they are. And they're nice and shiny. So we got a nice coat. So that should work for, I mean, it won't have the, if you have a glass and it sits and it sweats, they're just going to have a puddle. But a lot of coasters have that problem if they're not sandstone or something. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So the ones that, so she said she wanted Chinese elm. When I take these over, I'll show her. And it's like, well, there's now choices. You can choose and still get the Chinese elm, or there's the other ones. Or maybe she'll want some for somebody else. I don't know. But the other one, the ones that don't go, I'll put as sets in the Etsy store. So I don't know. There's 8 of these. I don't know if that means you make 2 sets of 4, or two sets of 5 and 1 set of 4, or 2 sets. Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work. I know for the Chinese elm, she said she wanted 6, and since there's 11, that probably means I'm gonna have 5 left over unless somebody else gets them. So, yeah, one more project done, and I have. Since I was cutting things up, I also made cut up pieces to make another Chinese elm rotating box. I think the lid's going to go like that. So that'll be a good box. And then just because I was cutting it up and figured why not, also do one for, I think that's upside down and that may be the wrong side. I think it goes this way. Nope. That way? That way. Yeah. Yeah, that fits that way. So I also did one of the juniper. I figured, yeah. It has the cool colors in the center, so we'll see how that goes. So at some point I'm going to get, next couple projects, I'll make those things, but yeah. Hopefully she will like them.